happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Unlocking the Magic of Leadership. Now, I have to just take a moment and say thank you. I released a video about my diagnosis with autism and the amount of emails and comments that I received. One, congratulating me on the diagnosis and offering support and asking questions, and all of these things meant the world. I was really nervous about putting it out there, so thank you for the support that you all showed me. It meant the world. Out of all of these comments, there was one consistent theme that was happening, and it was y'all were asking for more information about what is neurodivergence, what does it mean in the workplace, how do you lead it, what do you do if your kids have it, all of these things. Now, we're going to be focusing in the workplace. I deal with adults. I don't really deal with kids, so I don't feel like my expertise would allow me to speak to that. So when we're thinking about all of the information that you're going to be getting, it will be about adults in the workplace. So to start with, what is neurodivergence? Now, neurodivergence is simply the way that our brains process information is different from neurotypical. Neurotypical is the way that average brains process and bring in information and what they do with it. Now, when we think about neurodivergence, there are multiple types of neurodivergence. So y'all know autism. That's the one that came out. ADHD, dyspraxia of speech, and dyslexia or dyscalculia. And Tourette syndrome is also considered part of the neurodivergence umbrella. Now, what it means is that somebody who has a neurodivergent brain, their brain isn't doing anything wrong. It's simply the way that their brain processes information. So if you think about computers and the processing systems in computers, a simple way to understand is neurotypical would be like PC and neurodivergence would be Mac. So they do the same things, they can get to the same points, but the process is different. How you get there is different. It's also important to understand that neurodivergent brains have weaknesses, just like every other brain does. And many times that's what's focused on when it comes to neurodivergent. So we think of, I'll speak about autism. We think about autism with being sensory issues and getting overwhelmed, having too much coming in and just kind of locking up and not knowing what to do with that. What we don't talk about is the strengths that neurodivergent brains have. So when we think about going through and interacting with the world, being able to interact differently allows different outcomes. I can remember I was in an interview one time and the question was asked, do you think outside of the box? And I thought this question was really odd. And my answer confused them because I said no, because I don't really think there is a box. I think the way that I think, and it's done me well so far. I get pretty decent results. And they didn't really understand what to do with that. This concept of, do you think outside of the box? I would say yes. Most of the leaders that I've worked with would probably say, yep, she thinks outside the box. Also been called odd, weird, all of these things. But I never recognized the fact that there was the box to begin with. So it just shows a different way of thinking. Now, in the United States, they suggest that there's approximately 15 to 20% of adults fall under the neurodivergent umbrella. So if you think about 100 people in your workplace, chances are 15 to 20% of those individuals have some type of neurodivergence. And when we think about neurodivergence, it's not, oh, okay, I'm autistic, I don't have anything else. Many times the different types of neurodivergences can show up together. So it is not uncommon to have somebody who is autistic also have signs of ADHD, or somebody who has Tourette's also have signs of autism. So many times they can mingle together in the same person. And one thing, and I think this is the biggest lesson that I have learned while going down this rabbit hole, is that when we think of neurodivergences, when we think of autism, if you know somebody who has autism, you may think that you know about autism. But if you have 100 individuals with autism, it is going to show up 100 different ways. That's why we talk about it being a spectrum. There are different levels of neurodivergence. There are different ways that it shows up. When it's in children, it tends to be a much more obvious in how it shows up, simply because they haven't learned the masking skills associated with living in a world of neurotypicals. And so as a leader, what does this mean for you? Well, when you're going through and interacting with your employees, it's simply a different type of diversity. It's a difference and a strength that your employees are bringing to the table. So I know as an individual that identifies as a white female, my experience is very different than an individual that identifies as Hispanic or Black or male or transgender or gay or any of these things. It's my world. My lens is different from individuals who have a lens that may look different than mine. The same goes with neurodivergence. My lens is a lens through which I've learned how to view through autism. Somebody who's neurotypical is going to do it a little bit differently. Now, we're going to go in depth in each of these videos on what the different types of neurodivergences are. So we're not really diving deep into any piece. And we're also going to have some guests that are going to come in and talk about their neurodivergence and how they experience it. Now, as we're going through this series, I want to just make one quick comment. When myself and my guests are speaking about their experience, it's important to understand that it is their experience. So you may know somebody whose their experience has been vastly different. And I want to hear about that. I want to know how it can all show up. But please know that we are not speaking on behalf of the entire neurodivergent community. We are simply speaking on behalf of our experiences. And we will have videos that will focus primarily on autism, ADHD, and Tourette's. We will have a video that focuses on some of the other pieces of neurodivergence. And then we're going to have videos that talks about the myths of each of these pieces of neurodivergence as well. So if you have a specific question, if you're thinking to yourself, Summer, this is great. I have an employee. I would really like to know more about X. Send me an email, drop a comment down however you view this video. Let me know. I can't answer your questions if you're not asking them. So this is your time to learn, not everything because these are short videos, but to learn what we can about neurodivergence. And then understanding that just as in when you're learning about diversity, this doesn't stop with the video. Keep going. Keep doing the digging on your own. Once we accept the mantle of leadership, we no longer have the privilege to sit back and stop learning about others. If we are trying to work with and through others, it's important to understand their viewpoint.